It had no title, it had no author, it just had a warning. Do not read aloud, but that didn't stop him from doing exactly that. The moment his lips moved, the lights flickered above him, and the shadow of the old bookshelf crept longer across the floorboards. Still, he continued reading, unable to look away from the open book despite the growing unease in his gut. He tried to ignore the feeling. After all, it was just an old storybook found in the attic of his late grandmother's house. But as he read on, the shadows danced around the room, twisting into menacing shapes before his very eyes. He could feel the hairs on the back of his neck prickling with every word he uttered, as if the house itself were recoiling at the sound of its own history being spoken aloud. He swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. He wanted to stop, to slam the book shut and banish the darkness it seemed to be oozing into the room, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. There was something about the worn pages and faded ink that compelled him forward, demanding he finish the tale that had been started so long ago. The room grew colder too, and he pulled his sweater tighter around himself as if to ward off the encroaching chill. Outside, the wind began to howl, rattling the loose window pane. But he didn't even flinch at the sound. His eyes were locked on the page, reading, and then he came to the part where the story reached its climax. The hero was trapped, the villain was triumphant, and the fate of the kingdom hung in the balance. And as he read the words that told of the impending doom, he felt something snap inside of him. It wasn't like a light switch being flipped, but more like a dam breaking, unleashing a torrent of energy he never knew he possessed. His eyes flashed with newfound determination, and a wild grin spread across his face. The shadows in the room seemed to shrink back at the sight, retreating to the corners, as if afraid of what they were seeing. He stood up, his chair scraping harshly against the floorboards, and walked over to the bookshelf. The old wood creaked under his weight, but he didn't care. He reached out and pulled out another book, one with a spine as thick as his arm, and a cover that looked like it hadn't been opened in decades. He opened it and began to read, his voice echoing through the now silent house. The words seemed to flow from his lips with an ease that surprised him. He wasn't stumbling over them anymore, tripping on the unfamiliar vocabulary or struggling to decipher the faded ink. It was as if the very book was guiding his tongue, forcing him to speak the words that had been written so long ago. He read of battles and bloodshed, of love and loss, of hope and despair. And with each page that turned, he felt a part of him awakening, stirring from a slumber that had lasted for far too long. The book fell open to a blank page, and he stopped reading, his eyes closed as if listening for something. When he opened them again, they were a brilliant shade of emerald green, glowing with an otherworldly light. A slow smile spread across his face as he looked down at the book in his hands. The shadows in the room seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat, and the faintest whisper of a laugh echoed through the halls. He dipped his finger into the inkwell and began to write in the margins, his hand moving with a certainty that he couldn't remember feeling before. He wrote of new beginnings, of second chances, of battles won and losses avenged, and as he wrote, the ink dripped from his pen, dripping onto the pages below. But it wasn't black or blue or any other color. It was a deep, rich red, like the blood of a crimson rose or the heart of a beating drum.